In this video, I'm taking images of sample block prints and the original blocks to mock up ideas for new block prints. So ideally, you would have a couple of clear sample prints in order to work with this. And the reason that I brought in the actual blocks is it's going to help me see the proportion, the scale proportion between the two. And it's also one way you could potentially extract the pattern to fake the block print. But I have some good clean samples here, so I'm going to work with this. I'm going to go to the proper layer, zoom in here, select the block print, one unit of it, and put it onto its own layer. So that's new layer via cut or copy. In this case, I'll do copy. I'm just going to move it over to the side. And then on the other print, I'm going to go in and similarly take one unit. I'm going to take the easiest one to extract. Make sure I don't get anything that I don't need. Put it on its own layer, new layer via copy. And then I'm pretty much done with these. So I'm not going to delete them. I'm just going to make them invisible. And then I'm going to use this original block just to, I'm going to move this onto the top layer so I see it, but just to resize it. So I'm doing Command T on my keyboard, rotating it around, and I'm just going to resize it so that I'm working with the, if not original size, because it might not be original depending on the picture that was taken, but at least the correct scale in proportion to the other block print that I'm using. So I'm going to bring this one over, and again I'm going to put it on the top layer so that I can see it, and resize it so that it's the same size as the block. If you only have one block, you don't really need to do this. You could resize it to the actual size by measuring your physical block and resizing your artwork. So that's another one. I only rotated that a little bit just so that it would line up, but of course I'll probably square it when I start working with it. This one I'm going to take just a quick moment on its own layer, so I just made an empty layer, and quickly trace what's happening here so that I can fake this one as well. And this is going to take a little bit longer. I don't have to do it perfectly because again I'm just mocking this up, and I'm going to ignore the line work around the outside just for the sake of speed today. But a block print sample would be a lot easier to extract than the actual block. But it is possible for some reason you don't have it. Do that, I'm going to do this, this, and if I had time to edit this video, I would probably edit this part out. So now would be the time to fast forward so that you can get to the end of this selection. After I select it, I'm going to fill it with a solid color, probably black, just so that it's really clear, and then I can recolor as we go. So let me do that, and then this will be the interior part. Again, I'm not doing it perfectly, but I am getting a good sense of it. This is rather more intricate than I realized, of course. I think for the sake of speed, I'm going to leave the middle part out, but that just gives you a sense of if I'm on my own layer, I can fill with black. I just did Option Delete on the keyboard, and I can fake that before it's even printed. So we have the three blocks here, this one, and this one, and they're all proportionately in relationship to each other. The only thing I would want to do here is turn this into black and white. So the easiest way to do that would be to go to Image, Adjustment, and then down to Threshold. And Threshold will turn it black and white. If I'm getting too much of the garbage from the ground there, I can just slide this over. And if that doesn't work easily, then you also can add the step ahead of time, which would be levels. So first I pop up the contrast using levels, and then I would go to threshold, and that usually does the trick. It's like I didn't do the greatest job here, but at least I get an idea of what the block print would look like, and I can go in and clean it up a little bit. This is not meant to be original artwork. inspiration only. So once you have this, you can kind of get your palette involved, where if you're working with a set palette, you can start putting them into their own swatches menu here. I have some old ones that I was working with, so I'm going to use this one. Let's see. I'm going to use the Chicago Lake one. So in terms of mocking up a block print, definitely start by thinking about the ground color so that you're not just working onto a white void, which really affects the color. So I'm going to add a layer into the background of white. Looks like my tools are missing from my video, but I'm going to just select an area, and then Option Delete will allow me to fill it with color. Obviously black isn't going to do anything, so I'm going to use this light gray. And when you're thinking about layering dye and pigment with the block printing, it is easier to think about working with a darker color on a lighter ground. So imagine that I dyed something this color, and then I was thinking about doing a block print on top of it. Not having this white here will make it actually look like a block print. So after you adjust the thresholds, you want to go in and make a selection of the white. I'm going to take contiguous off, and I know that this is a really clean white, so I'll just put the tolerance down to 10. Select it, hit delete on my keyboard, go to the other one, select it, and hit delete on my keyboard. So all I'm going to do now is just mock up an idea for a print, thinking about different colors. I'm going to make this invisible because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to keep my blocks over here and make copies of them every time I work with them so that I don't mess up the original. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm holding the Move tool down and the Alt key to make a copy. And then I can select it and fill it with color. So I'm going to fill it with this color from the palette. This one, I'm going to duplicate this one again, and maybe I'll fill it with a different color. And none of this is required. All of it's optional in terms of changing the colors. But I say be as experimental as you want to be here, because you can just recreate it when you're actually printing it. And I think a lot of this is about seeing how these blocks might work together. So once I have them here, I can start sort of thinking about the physicality of block printing. You know, would I overlap something? Would I rotate something? And this should be fun. So I would relax and just try some variations. If you get something and you're not sure if you want to keep it, you should have a big enough file size that you can try a bunch of different things. You can also make groups of layers by going to the Layers menu, and let's say I'm going to move. I forgot to make a copy of this one, so I'll copy it and make it black now. I can move these over and group them together as you see when I select them all, it finds them in the Layers menu. I can do Command G on the keyboard, and then I can say these are my original blocks. And I'll always have a folder filled with them. And then I can also work with this idea and say, you know what, I'm just going to put these all together into a group and call that option 1 for my design. And then just kind of keep working with this idea. I think that there's a sketchpad feeling to this right now that hopefully you'll understand. And there's a lot of potential for layering with colors and overlapping and proximity. And we are working with proportionate scale right now. I'm going to end the video there because I think it's important to experiment.